All right, so let's dive into this question that I think a lot of you have been curious about.
Yep.
Why so many people just don't seem interested in dating these days?
Right.
You guys sent in this Reddit thread that
Yep.
asks, why are so many people uninterested in dating nowadays?
Hmm.
And the responses were so interesting
Yeah,
that we just had to do a deep dive into it.
absolutely.
So we're going to unpack all the different things going on here, try to figure out why this is resonating with so many people.
Yeah, one of the things that's really striking is that it's not just a few random opinions. It really does reflect a broader trend that we're seeing.
hmm
This shift away from the expectation that everyone has to couple up.
So it's not just about finding the one anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The thread really highlights how there's less societal pressure to be in a relationship, particularly in Western cultures.
Right.
One user even contrasted this with their friend's experience.
Okay.
In a less developed country, where remaining single past a certain age carries a lot of social stigma.
Wow. So in some cultures, you're basically a social pariah if you're not married by a certain age.
It's a huge difference.
Huge.
And the shift towards acceptance of singlehood in Western cultures, I think, gives people more space to prioritize their own happiness and to explore different paths to fulfillment that might not involve romantic relationships.
That makes sense. But even with all this freedom to choose, there are a ton of people in this thread who talk about how exhausting modern dating is.
Yeah.
They talk about ghosting, online harassment, the struggles of meeting people organically. It's like a minefield out there.
One commenter even called online dating a slightly less toxic Chernobyl reactor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, these challenges, I think, really contribute to what a lot of people are calling dating fatigue,
Right.
where the whole process just feels like way more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, that is a pretty bleak outlook.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you have all these people celebrating single life.
Yeah.
One user talked about how much they love living alone, the freedom of it all.
Mm.
Wearing what they want, eating what they want, setting their own schedule. They called it a level of liberation.
I love that. And it's interesting how this connects to this broader cultural embrace of self-care and prioritizing your own needs.
Yeah,
Singlehood really does offer this incredible chance for self-discovery and growth.
absolutely.
And for many people, that's incredibly appealing.
It's like they're finding purpose and connection in other areas of their lives, like through friendships and family and fulfilling careers.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
I think we're moving away from this idea that a romantic relationship is the only path to happiness.
Right.
And, that shift becomes even more pronounced when you start to factor in the economic realities that people are facing these days.
Okay, so how are economics playing into this whole opting out of dating thing?
Well, think about the rising cost of living,
Yeah.
especially in major cities.
It's insane.
A lot of younger people are really struggling to achieve any sort of financial stability. They're dealing with student loan debt and wages that just haven't kept up with inflation. So dating just feels less like a priority and more like a luxury that they can't afford.
It makes sense if you're barely making ends meet, adding the expense of dating and a relationship
Right.
on top of everything else just feels overwhelming.
Totally. And you combine that with all the existing anxieties around dating, and it's understandable why some people are choosing to focus on their finances rather than romantic pursuits.
So we've talked about societal shifts,
Hmm.
the challenges of modern dating, the appeal of being single, and the economic anxieties people are facing. Is there anything else fueling this trend?
There is one more big theme that kept popping up in the Reddit thread,
What's that?
and it's the influence of social media.
Social media, the gift and the curse of our time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How is it playing into all of this?
Right.
Well, a lot of users pointed to social media as this breeding ground for unrealistic expectations, particularly when it comes to relationships, and it creates this constant cycle of comparison, which can make people feel inadequate or insecure, which obviously doesn't help when you're trying to feel confident in the dating scene.
It's like everyone's carefully curated highlight reel is just playing on a loop, and then you look at your own life and think, ugh, this is so dull.
Exactly. And then you add in all the negativity surrounding gender dynamics online.
Right.
All the arguments, all the assumptions.
Yeah.
It's no wonder some people feel like dating is just a minefield waiting to explode.
Totally. One commenter said, and I thought this is so perfect, social media has made both genders think the opposite gender is the enemy. Who wants to date people you think hate you?
Such a powerful statement, and I think it reflects the level of animosity and distrust that can really develop online.
Yeah.
It just makes finding common ground and forging these genuine connections even harder.
So social media basically amplifies the anxieties and uncertainties that people already have about dating.
Yeah.
And some people are just like, forget it, I'm out.
Exactly. It adds another layer of complexity and pressure, which further fuels this trend towards opting out of the whole dating game.
It's crazy because this Reddit thread is like a tiny window into a much bigger cultural shift
It really is.
that's happening right in front of us.
It's fascinating to unpack all these different forces that are contributing to this evolving landscape of love and connection.
Absolutely.
I think if we zoom out a little bit and look at the bigger picture, what we're seeing is this convergence of factors driving this shift away from traditional dating.
Yeah, it's like a perfect storm of
Yep.
all these things, changing social norms, economic pressures, this rise in individualism, and then, of course, you've got technology thrown in there, too.
Exactly. And it really makes you wonder if this is just like a temporary blip or if it's like a fundamental shift in how people approach relationships.
Right, and it's funny because one of the users in this thread said something like, all the good ones are already married,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was interesting because it speaks to this feeling of scarcity
Yeah.
in the dating pool, like all the good ones are gone.
That perception of scarcity is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's this sense of, having missed the boat, especially for people who are looking for a serious commitment.
Right, and I can totally see how online dating would amplify that feeling.
Yeah.
You're just bombarded with profiles and options, but finding like a real connection amongst all that noise feels almost impossible.
It becomes a risk-reward calculation,
Yeah.
and for a lot of people, the potential downsides like ghosting or harassment or just basic incompatibility outweigh the potential rewards of actually finding a partner.
So if traditional dating is becoming less appealing, are we seeing any alternative models starting to gain traction?
We're definitely seeing a shift towards more fluid and flexible relationship structures.
What does that look like? Give me some examples.
Well, you've got ethical non-monogamy,
Right,
which
yeah.
is basically a consensual agreement between partners to have other romantic or sexual relationships.
Okay.
And then you have polyamory, where people have multiple committed relationships at the same time, with everyone knowing and consenting to it.
So it's about redefining what partnership means,
Yeah.
moving beyond that traditional monogamous model.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing individual needs and desires
Right.
and creating relationships that genuinely work for the people involved, rather than just conforming to these societal expectations.
And that sense of agency of being able to choose what kind of relationship you want,
Absolutely.
or even if you want one at all,
Yeah.
can be incredibly empowering.
Yeah, I think this Reddit thread is really just a microcosm of a much larger societal shift
Yeah.
that's happening, where we're witnessing this movement towards prioritizing authentic connection, whatever form that may take.
I mean, this is also fascinating.
Right.
It really feels like we're at a turning point in how we view relationships.
Mhm.
But where do we go from here? What does this mean for the future of love and connection?
Well, it's impossible to predict the future with absolute certainty. But I think it's safe to say that the traditional model of romantic partnership is undergoing a pretty significant evolution.
Okay, but what might that evolution look like? Paint me a picture.
I think we'll see a greater emphasis on open communication,
Okay.
flexibility, and a willingness to challenge those traditional relationship structures.
So more honesty, less pressure, more freedom to choose your own path.
Exactly. It's about embracing individuality within relationships, recognizing that personal growth and fulfillment don't have to be sacrificed for commitment and partnership.
That's a really optimistic outlook.
Yes?
And it makes me wonder what role technology is going to play in all of this.
Oh, that's a good question. Technology is such a double-edged sword.
Right.
On one hand, it's contributed to some of the challenges that we talked about.
Like online harassment and the unrealistic expectations.
Exactly. But couldn't it also be part of the solution?
Yeah. I mean, technology has already connected people in ways that we never thought possible.
You're totally right. Maybe we'll see new platforms and technologies
Yeah.
specifically designed to foster genuine connection and meaningful relationships.
Right. Like imagine a dating app that prioritizes shared values, emotional intelligence, and healthy communication
Ooh.
over superficial criteria.
That would be a game changer.
Right.
It all comes down to intentionality, both online and offline, being clear about what you're looking for, what you're willing to give, and what
Yeah.
your non-negotiables are.
It's about taking control of your own narrative and creating the kind of connections that you truly desire.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the key to finding happiness and fulfillment, whether it's within a romantic relationship or any other form of connection.
That's a beautiful thought.
Hmm.
I think this whole discussion really boils down to recognizing that there is no single right way
Yeah.
to approach relationships. It's about finding what works for you, what brings you joy, and allows you to express your most authentic self.
It's about being true to yourself and creating a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful, regardless of what societal pressures or expectations might be telling you.
And who knows, maybe in embracing that freedom and authenticity will create a world where connections are deeper,
Yeah.
more genuine, and more fulfilling than ever before.
I love that vision. And to think it all started with this simple question on Reddit.
It just goes to show you that sometimes the most profound insights come from the most unexpected places.
That's the beauty of the deep dive.
Yeah.
Taking something seemingly ordinary and uncovering this whole world of knowledge, perspectives, and possibilities.
It's a journey of discovery.
It really is.
And it's one that I'm always thrilled to embark on.
Me too, and I can't wait to see where our next deep dive takes us. But before we wrap up this one,
Okay.
I think it's important to address something that came up in a few of the Reddit comments. So a few people in the thread mentioned this idea that we've all been kind of programmed to believe that being in a relationship is like the ultimate goal, the only way to be truly happy.
It's such a deeply ingrained belief, right? It's
Yeah.
reinforced through everything, movies, TV shows, family expectations, societal norms. But what if we challenge that assumption?
Yeah.
What if we acknowledge that happiness can be found in lots of different forms, regardless of your relationship status?
It's a pretty big shift in perspective,
It is.
but it feels like it's slowly gaining momentum.
I agree. I think we're starting to see this movement away from that binary thinking of you're either single or you're coupled up,
Right.
and towards embracing, the full spectrum of human connection.
It's about recognizing that relationships in all their beautiful and messy forms are fluid and evolving.
Yes.
And ultimately, they're a reflection of our own individual choices and values.
Well said. And I think that's a really powerful message for our listeners to take away from this deep dive.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to approach relationships. It's about finding what genuinely works for you, what brings you joy, and allows you to express your most authentic self.
It's about honoring your own needs and desires
Absolutely.
and creating a life that feels fulfilling and meaningful regardless of what societal pressures or expectations might be telling you.
And who knows, maybe in embracing that freedom and authenticity, we'll create a world where connections are deeper, more genuine, and more fulfilling than ever before.
That's a beautiful vision. And to think we started with just one little question on Reddit.
I know, it just goes to show you that sometimes the most profound insights can come from the most unexpected places.
That's the beauty of a deep dive.
It is.
Taking something seemingly ordinary and uncovering this whole world of knowledge and perspectives and possibilities.
It's a journey of discovery.
It really is, and it's been such a fascinating journey.
It always is.
And remember, this conversation doesn't have to end here.
Right.
There's so much more to explore and discover about this whole evolving landscape of love and connection.
Absolutely.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, we'd love for you to subscribe to our channel, Shauna Pelage, on YouTube.
Yes.
And hit that like button. It really helps us reach more curious minds like yours who are eager to learn and grow.
We believe that knowledge is power. And the more we can share these thought-provoking conversations, the better equipped we'll all be to navigate the complexities of modern life.
So until our next deep dive, keep those questions coming, keep exploring, and keep those beautiful minds engaged.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.